I elevated the look of my bedroom with one small change. This is a wall tester, also known as a bed crown. This is a good option for people that want the look of a canopy without being overwhelming to a smaller room. So let's put it up. So how did the wall tester actually get its name? First of all, bed canopies first emerged in the Middle East. This is a reproduction of the first known portable bed canopy from around 2600 BC. It belonged to Egyptian queen Hetepheres. The curtains of her canopy are located in the ornate curtain box. Canopies back then were used for practical purposes, helping retaining heat and protecting against disease-carrying pests, and could also block some noise and provided some privacy. Later in Europe, particularly around the 16th and 17th centuries, ornate tester beds, either a full or partial bed, were status symbols of the wealthy. Later, tester beds were common in some areas of the world because mosquito netting could be draped from the canopies to protect sleepers from insects and the diseases they carried, such as yellow fever. But as homes developed smaller, more intimate rooms, and climate and pest control were less of a concern, testers gave way to smaller, more decorative designs, such as this wall tester or bed crown. Put it up with me. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this cat and this bedding. The most important thing about putting up a bed crown, in my opinion, is to do everything you can to prevent that thing from falling on your face or head while you're in bed. So the way to secure something into a wall, especially something heavier, is to screw it into a stud. We are going to go ahead and find the studs. So most studs in most houses are separated about 12 inches apart, but unfortunately with the way that the studs are placed in my home, they are not close enough to catch all the holes on the backing here, on the thing that'll attach to the wall. It has 4 sets of holes. My studs are spaced so that only one set of holes will be catching the stud. So the rest of the holes are going to be in the drywall. So physically, to make this most secure, I am going to have one of the holes closest to the center of this bar screw into the stud. The bed crown that I'm using is the Flowering Medallion Aged Gold Wall Teester bed crown by Touch of Class. Just know while working on something like this, nearly everything is modifiable. The bracket for the bed crown is approximately 17 inches long, so if you really wanted, you could drill new holes into the bracket. I personally felt like there was not enough room to do that, so I just used 2 screws to drill the bracket into the stud, and I'm going to use anchors for where there's no stud. I changed the color of the tester by applying gold leaf, which I will show you how to do later in this video. Fortunately, the bed crown that I purchased only weighs 5.5 pounds. So I'm going to first find my stud with a stud finder. We have the center one located right here. And mark it, which I've already done. To level a teester, I have this giant lever here. So you want the water bubble when it's right in the middle, that's when it's centered. So the easiest way to do it is just get the base, put it right on top of the stud finder, and center this and just make circles tracing out. It's hard to hold that myself, but if you have someone to help you, that would be great. And then just double check that the holes are level. So you're going to be using different screws to screw something into a stud versus drywall without a stud, where there's nothing underneath it, no stud to support. So this is the type of screw that you would use to screw the base of the bed crown into the stud. Just a simple screw, no anchor. This is a screw with an anchor. So as you screw this manually with a screwdriver, not a drill, this will expand, and then these teeth will catch on to the drywall or plaster or what have you to secure it in. So this will be securing the base into the areas where I don't have a stud, and then just this plain screw will be used to secure into the stud itself. I used a brass screw, which I don't recommend because brass is very soft. When screwing this into a hole, which I'm about to do, it might be difficult to screw, and if you are not applying enough pressure nor using a screwdriver that fits very snugly into the screw head, you can really tear up the screw head, making it difficult to turn the screw. But this was what I had available, so I'm using it. So I'll be using 2 of these and 4 of these with the anchor. And of course, make sure your screw can go through these holes first before using them. Okay, so this screw does not fit into this hole. Okay, wait. No, it does. Oh, the metal got colder. That's why. Okay. Well, it does outside, but it did not fit it in my room. So I think it's because the metal got colder. Anyway, I am going to expand the hole. I just use a drill bit to slightly widen the holes to accommodate the screw. It's a lesson in physics where the metal shrinks in the cold. It's about 20 degrees outside or less, and slightly enlarges in the heat. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure this will work. These new slightly larger holes, as you can see, comparatively slightly wider. In order to screw something into a wall or a stud or something like that, you're going to be first drilling pilot holes with these drill bits. And it's easier to first double check your work on like a slab of wood, but you can double check if your hole fits into a screw by testing the pre-drilled hole size and the screw on a scrap piece of wood before you drill a hole into your wall. But this is the drill bit that's going to be used for this screw, and it usually says the diameter of the drill bit on the drill bit itself. You want to use a drill bit that's a little smaller than your actual screw so that it'll catch and your screw is not like floating in air. And a very important rule when it comes to fixing things, doing any kind of construction, is to always protect yourself. So I have my earplugs to protect myself from the sound of the drill, and then I have protection goggles. When you hang the teester like this, I feel like it comes in minimal contact, for me at least, with the bracket that's going to be on the wall. You have all 8 holes accessible to screw into, but I feel like this is not as secure as I want it to be. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure I'm the only one who probably thinks that, but I just get nervous because my head's going to be right under this crown, this heavy crown. It actually just weighs 5 pounds, so it's not too heavy, but still, it feels way heavier than it is, and it's metal and resin. The screw that I wanted to use, it's a little too long for the area. There's something in the area where the stud finder found the stud that is impeding this entire screw from going into the wall. It's important that the screw is flush to the wall to prevent this bed crown from landing on your face. In order to do that in this particular space, the screw had to be shortened. So I just shortened the screw by a couple of millimeters with a metal file, making sure the holes are aligned again. Here I'm just drilling pilot holes for the screws to be screwed into the studs, and then pilot holes for the anchors. So I'm going to do a 1/4 inch drill bit. Be sure to check the guide to make sure you have the appropriate drill bit for your anchor and grip range. I'm going to take a hammer to facilitate pushing this anchor into the drywall. It just needs a little assistance. And also, what I want are those teeth that were part of the anchor to be in the drywall. These things right here. So just hammer that in. And the thing that's good with these is you can remove the screw as needed without disturbing the anchor. So I'm gonna screw in the other drywall anchors after double checking my leveling. This is actually more like a mallet than a hammer. So you unfortunately can't put in the screws just like that. You have to expand the anchor. So to do that, you screw the screws back in and you take a screwdriver and twist the screw until it tightens significantly, until basically the screw can no longer turn any further. Once it's expanded, it'll be able to hold the bed crown pretty well, hopefully. So unfortunately, I cannot deploy the anchors. I think the shaft is too short for the walls. So I think this will maybe work better than what I already have. So I'm gonna actually try and pull these anchors out using this plier. If, like me, you make a mistake with the anchors, in my case, I got the incorrect grip length for my wall, so be sure to check the guide in the caption. Don't worry, you can address this problem by pulling out the old anchors and inserting the new ones. Luckily, both anchors required the same size pre-drilled hole. When pulling the anchors, of course, you don't want to rotate the anchors too much, otherwise you're gonna like mess up your hole and it's not gonna be as secure. So you just unscrew this a little bit. You just have to pull it straight out, which is so hard. Wow, okay. Remember to remove the screw from the anchor prior to hammering it in because you can mess up your screw that way. Luckily, I had extra. I was just so tired by this time, you wouldn't believe how long this project took, or maybe you would. The deployment is working. It was not working, but the deployment is working with this one. So you basically, even though the screw head looks like this, you want to use a flathead screwdriver just so it'll catch the anchor without completely tearing your screw apart. It's going to be hard to screw initially, then it's going to be easier to screw, and then once it's deployed, it's going to be hard to screw again. Right about there. Whew. Now I'm just going to unscrew all the screws. The anchor should be secured in place and the screws can come on and off. And after a few twists, it should be pretty easy to get out. These two holes might need a washer, which are these little things, so the screw just doesn't fall through the bracket there. So I'm going to add some bigger washers to these screws, just so it doesn't fall through the wider hole. Now I'm just securing the bracket into the wall by screwing the screws back into the anchors. The next thing I'm going to try to do is to put these shaved down brass screws into the wall. And one way to help facilitate the screws entry into the stud is to just use a bar of soap. You want to coat the threads as best as you can. There's a lot of soap shavings. That is one tough screw. There's no such thing as too much soap on your screw. Here I am tightening all those screws. I couldn't use all 8 holes because these two anchors are deployed. If I put two more anchors in, it'll interact and interfere with the ones above them. This anchor is not deployed and this anchor is, and these two are in actual studs. This isn't ideal for me. I would want the top of the tester to be more like to come to more of a point, kind of imitating my bed frame. But to really get what you want, especially with this aesthetic in mind, it costs a pretty penny, and relatively this was not as expensive. And then it's not the color gold that I wanted. I would want the color to either match my bed or to be a true metallic gold, like a gold leaf. So we are changing the color of the bed crown. First, I washed the bed crown with some dish soap and water. Then I primed it using the Rust-Oleum 2X Ultra Cover Primer. I let that dry and then I used a tack cloth to remove any dust. Then I painted both sides with this Modern Mastery metallic gold paint in Pharaoh's Gold. This I used under the gold leaf in case there were some patches of unleafed bed crown that peeped through, which happened with previous projects, so this matches gold leaf very well. It is water-based, so it can streak, so that's why I applied the gold leaf in addition to the paint. And I just love the appearance of gold leaf in general. I applied 3 layers of gold paint to each side. It is helpful to use bricks to stabilize the teester while you're working on it. Always try to have your paint prepped. This is how I keep my paint overnight. It stays wet and usable along with the brush for like up to 3 days like this. The paint is looking lovely, but I think that'll look better with gold leaf. I already tack clothed the teester to try and get any dust off. And now I'm going to start with this metal leaf adhesive. Here I am applying metal leaf adhesive. It's important to wait 30 to 45 minutes after application prior to leafing for the adhesive to get tacky. After the allotted wait time for your specific sealant, it is then time to apply the metal leaf. It's recommended not to apply the leaf in an area where there's a lot of airflow because that will cause the metal leaf to blow around and be more difficult to apply. Here I am finding my rhythm. I first fan the leaf onto a firm card, then use that to carry that to the teester, apply it gently, and push the product in to all the grooves on the teester. I then use any extra bits to fill in any gaps where I may have missed first pass of metal leaf application. Then I gently polish the gold leaf with a piece of wax paper that came in the metal leaf package. That's important to add shine to the project because the sealant will actually dull the metal. This isn't 24 karat gold leaf, so you have to be mindful of that. Now comes the most cumbersome part of metal leafing, trying to remove the excess. The thing I struggle with the most is trying to remove these excess gold flakes. Sometimes I'll use a small, like a soft brush, and then I'll like lose my patience and use a harder brush, which then like gets some of the gold leaf that was glued on off. So you just have to be careful. I also used excess tissue paper in my gloved hand to try to remove the excess leaf. Here it is in all its glory before sealant. The following day I applied metal leaf sealant. This is important for this particular project because metal leaf is not 24 karat gold and it will oxidize over time. So you want to seal it. The instructions say to use a slightly damp brush. So I slightly dampened my brush with a regular tap water, and it actually prematurely oxidized the metal leaf. So I would not dampen the brush prior to application of the sealant. Sealant itself is a liquid, so that will dampen the brush enough on its own. It left like some type of cast on the gold. Instead of making the gold be super shiny, there's like all this green left. It marked a lot of brown marks
it really took away the shine of the gold. So this looks more antiqued, a lot more antiques than I would have liked. That is okay. I'm not going to repeat this process. It's very labor intensive for me. So it's kind of sad, but at least I have the color of the bed crown closer to the color that I wanted.
Then I repeated the entire process on the back of the teester, starting with metal sealant, allowing that to get tacky, applying the gold leaf. It usually takes me a couple of passes to make sure that every spot is covered, giving the leaf a good polish with wax paper, give it a nice shine, brushing off the excess leaf, waiting a day to apply the metal leaf sealant. This time I did not pre-wet the brush prior to using the sealant, and the result was beautiful. The metal leaf was not prematurely oxidized. Although the gold is a bit duller than before the sealant, that's normal with this particular sealant. Here it is in all its glory. It is definitely discolored, but that's okay. Either I'm just going to leave it the way it is, which I don't want to do, or gold leaf it again because I have another gold leafing project coming up. So now the moment of truth is hanging this up. This teester comes with a little curtain rod on the inside of the bed crown, and you just hang your curtains on this and then hang it up. I'm going to be hanging these 120-inch curtains from the bed crown, seafoam curtains, which are one of my favorite interior design colors. I have been saving these for years. So you just place the curtains on the rod, weave the curtains through the teester, and just reattach the rod. Then you just hook this on to the bracket on the wall. Then just pleat and fluff the curtains. There are a bunch of YouTube videos that show this better than I do. I was thinking of adding some tiebacks, either this fleur-de-lis one or this kind of flowery one. I'll have to gold leaf one or the other and put it on the sides of the bed. Or I was just thinking of like a regular tassel, like a string tassel. I think that would be really pretty too and more subtle, or both. Honestly, to really elevate my room, I would probably add crown molding. That would be probably better. But I can't decide on the color of the crown molding. Should it be the same color as the wall? I think it should be, but my molding around the rest of my room is gold. So I don't know if I should do that. I was wanting it to be gold, but I feel like the horizontal line in the ceiling, I feel like it'll cut the room unless if it's like really ornate and more diagonal, I guess, to create an even bigger, like a more illusion of length, which I love. But I think to not make the room seem so short, probably crown molding that's the same color as my wall. So there you have it. From the Middle East and China to the Renaissance and Baroque European periods to my bedroom wall, my teester is finally up. We did it. The next project is going to be my closet doors, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not like a tool-ish person.